Alright, so just moving on to part 4, which is headed Windows of Opportunity. And the first part of that is about the family crucible. So just to give a bit of definitional background, family is our first school for emotional learning. We learn how to feel about ourselves and how others will react to our feelings, how to think about these feelings and what choices we have in reacting, how to read and express our hopes and fears. So there's a brief story on page 189 about Carl and Anne and their daughter Leslie, who's only 5. Leslie's playing a video game at the time, and you've got Carl shouting in one ear to do one thing, and Leslie, the mother, shouting in another ear to do another thing. It leads to actually Carl and Anne squabbling over the top of Leslie, and Leslie ends up crying her eyes out because she can hear her parents scream. She's only 5 years old, poor girl. And the painful message was that neither her parents or anyone else cared about Leslie's feelings. And I can remember, just from, because we like to obviously relate stories and examples from the books to our own personal lives, I can remember from my own personal experience when I was younger, just like mum and dad arguing, and I remember just feeling really down and upset about it, and but at the time, they're not caring about how I'm feeling. Yeah. And obviously I'm so young, I can't really express how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. But I think I've given an example in one of our previous seasons anyway, where I think at the age of 12 or 13 one day, maybe 11 or 12, I can't remember. Let's just say 6 because I'm going to say I cried. So let's just say I'm 6 when I wasn't really. But I was on the way to football, and I think me and my dad was in the van going to pick up my cousin. I remember I think just before we left house, my mum and dad had a big argument again, and I was just silent in the car, and he goes, "Oh, I was like, what's up, Lee?" And I was just silent. He's silent. He goes, is it me and mum? And then I think I just burst out crying. It's like, and I think he felt it was the first time he ever felt bad, because usually when they would argue, I'm revealing their business right now. This is back in the day anyway. It would always end in my dad storming at the house, slamming the door, and then stonewalling, yeah, slamming the door and going about his business. I don't know what he meant to do, but okay, trap out on the roadside, but I don't know what he's going to do. But anyway, but this time obviously because we left house, we were going football, and I used to always hate my dad when he was in an angry mood, because he was a different type of person that he didn't really want to be around and stuff. He'd just be aggressive, not necessarily with you, but you knew a bout of road rage might occur and all that kind of stuff. So I just remember I was crying, and he just he actually felt bad. That's the first time, as I said, normally because he storms out this time, he seen me. I think he saw how it affected me. Mm-hmm. I remember, I think soon after, that's when they kind of broke up. They just realised they couldn't go on because it was the effect it was having on me. I think my point is, have you guys experienced anything like this where it doesn't have to be your parents, it could be siblings, it could be uncles or aunts, where you've been in a situation, it could be friends, where you've been in a situation where once, twice, on numerous occasions where you felt things are affecting or troubling you, and you felt like the people around you involved actually don't give 2 F's about your feelings?
I can relate it back to my parents. Same similar sort of thing. I mean, they're still together now, so it's not a case of where they broke her up or anything. But I just recall a memory sprang to mind as you was giving your example.
Yeah,
was obviously they've argued many times over the years, but I must have been, I don't know, I can't give a specific age. I could say about 4 or 5 possibly. But I remember them arguing, it was a proper argument. They was going at it,
beef thing, boy.
And I must have. It must have got to me because I've got up and said stop fighting.
Yeah.
And obviously.
Do you remember how old you was?
Yeah, so I mean I must have been about 4 or 5. I was really young.
Yeah.
I was really young. But I remember them both consoling me, saying that they're not fighting, because I assumed they were fighting, kicking, punching. Obviously they wasn't, but I'm like, stop fighting kind of thing. It's like, no, we're not fighting, we're just arguing, we're not having a disagreement. And they was kind of explaining the difference to me and kind of calming me down, because obviously I got upset.
Yeah.
I was crying and whatnot. But I definitely can relate to that situation. Mm-hmm. But I never felt that they didn't care about me, but I know in that moment I didn't feel the love that I'd normally been experiencing. I thought I don't like this. I definitely felt I don't like this. I'm seeing my mum angry, I'm seeing my dad angry, and they're going at each other. So it was very much a stop it. Do you know what I mean?
I can't think of one specific situation, but I think our stories are very similar, and we're talking about our parents arguing and stuff like that. And what came from certainly what you said, which was no different from what you said, but it made me think about it
Yeah.
with the example you gave. Is that it may sound wrong, but we're actually secondary in what is actually taking place. So although obviously they do care about you and stuff like that, you're like
In the moment, you're secondary.
yeah, you're secondary. So they have no time to really console you or have those conversations because of many different reasons as such. And because of
in
that,
the moment.
yeah, and because of that, obviously you then become you become collateral damage.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate, but that is the case. And I'll say that happened a lot within my childhood, certainly, because there was a lot of arguing under my roof for many years, until at least 15, 16. I don't know what age your dad left home.
Yeah, maybe like 30.
Yeah, so at least 15, 16, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, at least 15, 16, from what I remember.
Yeah.
So it was just non-stop noise, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
But how did that make you feel? Were you one of those people that could just brush it aside? And
Nah, not after a while, no, because it was energy remains in the house.
Yeah,
Spark is going
exactly.
You'll go out and just come back. It comes back at some point.
Yeah.
And you can feel it.
Yeah, you
and
can feel it. You can feel it. You
and
can
I-
definitely feel it.
There's definitely I mean, I've been honest. I didn't enjoy being at home because I knew what was there.
Yeah.
You know, that energy. That was an undercurrent of.
Yeah,
It was
it's
undercurrent.
palpable. I said
Yeah.
you can tell when it's palpable when someone comes in the house and it's almost like calm, and someone steps into the house and it's like
Yeah.
it's just on edge. It's like
Yeah, it's
it
like-
can go off at any second.
I remember
Like,
there was a point where my dad went on holiday, and I was like, he needed to leave. Actually, I remember he went on holiday, and I was like, gee, peace for 3 weeks, peace for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he actually finally left the house, I was cool with him. Like no issues with him. Like the energy we had, no problem.
Yeah,
Wasn't a problem. When everyone was in the same house,
yeah, it's a lot.
problems. But yeah.
You raised some good points there, Pete. One of them was about us being collateral damage almost, and it almost what actually the book goes on page 190 is it suggests that there is now hard data which shows that having emotionally intelligent parents is in itself an enormous benefit to a child. So research by Carol Hooven and John Gottman at the University of Washington found that couples who were emotionally competent were also the most effective in helping their children with ups and downs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So from their research, they discovered 3 most common emotional inept parenting styles.
I've heard this bit.
Yeah. The first one, ignoring feelings altogether. So, so basically, they see that the child's emotional upset is trivial and should wait for it to blow over. So it's almost like in our scenarios, they didn't even see us. They didn't see that it was
oblivious.
See that it was trivial and should wait for it to blow over. The second was being too laissez-faire. So you guys in the film with the term laissez-faire, right?
Yeah, blasé.
Yeah. Parents notice a child's feeling, but the child is free to lash out, do what they want. They fail to show their child an alternative emotional response and will often bribe their child to stop being angry. I've seen these people in the supermarkets before.
Yeah, it's been more
Do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I did. Like, I thought about this today. And I had
Steve! Come here, Steve! Come here! I'll give you some toffee crisp!
I have these thoughts all the time. I don't know if it's because we're getting older and obviously we're getting closer to fatherhood. None of us are. Anyway, we're getting closer to that time in our life anyway.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, is there anything I'd change in regards to 100% things I would change, but would my attitude be very similar would my attitude be very, very similar in terms of a hard upbringing? And at the moment, although I would like to say, yes, it would be a little bit different, part of me says no. As in, there needs to be...
Boundaries.
Yeah, and
100%.
sometimes
Yeah,
I
that
look
goes
around
without
me and I see, what, today, like, this has, I don't know, but there are better examples, but today, I was driving along and I saw a kid, he must be like 3, walking towards the zebra crossing. I was like, where are this boy parents?
Yeah.
The parents were like 5 yards, 10 yards behind. And I was like, gee, I just nodded my head. I thought, and the dad's like, yeah. And I was like, smiling. What's he smiling at? Like, anyone else would have, like, unfortunately, went across the zebra crossing and your child had no idea of left, right, and what was going on. Yeah, but I mean, I personally wouldn't have given him that type of distance. The kid was, anyway, like, yeah. So I mean, I think I would have a stronger, I don't know if it's a stronger arm or I don't know what the phrase is such, but I like to believe our opinion would be very similar, but maybe be a bit more aware of how emotionally in tune also my child is.
Mm-hmm. So the third point, did you want to comment, French?
No, I'll give you a piece.
Okay. The third, so that was the second point from the research of inept parenting styles. The third inept parenting styles inept parenting style they discovered was being contemptuous, so showing no respect for how the child feels. Such parents are typically disapproving, harshing criticism and punishment. For some reason, this reminds me of UP, but anyway. And they shout back at the
I'm
child.
glad you said that, actually, because I was actually thinking about that. Do you want to continue, or do we just...
No, I was going to say, which type of parenting ever applied to any of you guys? If any of these three that I just mentioned.
Say the last one again.
Being contemptuous, so showing no respect for how the child feels. Such parents are typically disapproving. I don't think you would have been raised like this. I don't know why. But such parents are typically disapproving, harsh in criticism and in punishment, and they shout back at their child.
Maybe
Which I think there might have been a mix.
I think a mix.
Yeah,
For me, it's
definitely
definitely a mix. I don't think there's one specific, because even that last one you said,
Yeah.
like, I wasn't harshly criticised, but I was definitely shouted back at, and I did receive, obviously it doesn't say it in their beatings and stuff, but there was a lot of, I'm right, you're wrong, I don't care about how you feel about it, this is what it is. So I'm not going to say there was a lack of feelings, but there wasn't I always used to have the argument with my parents of, like, let me tell you how I feel about it, but it was almost like, yeah, we don't care. We don't. Yeah, what you've got to say is irrelevant. We're the parents. You're the child.
Yeah.
And that's affected me in terms of I don't like talking. I genuinely don't like talking, and there's a lot of that comes from when I used to want to get my point across. It was never taken on board. So I was like, alright, cool. I'm just not going to talk then. And
that's a good point, man.
That's a big part of the way I am. So.
See, I would 100% agree with everything you said. In terms of being raised, I think very, very similar. There's no need for me to go too deep into, because it's pretty much very similar anyway. In terms of like not talking, I think I was again very similar. But I think you wanted to talk as well. But I think I've got to a point where I enjoy talking, which is obviously just two different phases or attitudes or anyway, just the way we adopt, the way we were brought up and stuff like that. Again, like in looking towards maybe a future self, like looking towards the future of myself, there's parts of it that I wouldn't really change. I mean, obviously, I can't be too direct and stuff like that, but there was a sense of realism in terms of what was going on there, because truth be told, sometimes your parents literally just kind of offload what's going on outside onto you, unfortunately. And I think sometimes you need to give, whether it's your child or whoever, like a sense of realism, you know? So, yeah, you can tell me how you feel. In fact, that's great. But actually, I'm going to give you a dose of realism and tell you actually what is going to happen. Because you don't have... I mean, you have a choice, but you don't have a choice. All right? Because I'm the adult, etc., etc., etc. And I will definitely allow a bit of guided discovery, because I thought about this. Because I've done travelling and stuff like that. I promise you, like, the stuff that you've seen on TV, My Wife and Kids, all them madness, them things will happen. You can sleep in the garden in winter. You think it sounds crazy?
No, it doesn't sound crazy.
I am down.
Yeah.
You will go to Ghana for, like, I will drop, like, whether your partner's going to be down for that type of stuff, it's a totally different thing. But actually, it's very similar to, I don't want to say animals, you've heard these things before where you let your child go out as such, and if they return, they return. They don't. Like, unfortunately, this is a part of growing up, and when you finally become an adult, you're going to have to learn these harsh realities. And I'd like to believe you've learned these realities alongside me, when I'm able to actually guide you and help you and provide you with some answers and stuff like that, rather than when you go out into the cold world, because it is a very cold world, you learn these realities, and you learn these harsh realities, and there are punishments.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I wouldn't say on everything. Obviously, I think we've had this discussion in regards to parenting as well. Like every generation,
it's softer, and I believe
it becomes softer. It does become softer, but I also think you try and take the best parts of what your parents gave you, and also take away the worst parts, what you feel was the worst parts, which then makes your parenting slightly different to what theirs are. And I can't say it levels out, because I'm not a parent yet, so I've yet to experience how that goes. But in terms of, okay, for example, I will still give my child boundaries and be, not to say a firm hand, but when I do talk, you need to respect it and you need to listen. But at the same time, I'm also going to give them an opportunity to talk and tell me how they feel, rather than not hear what they have to say at all.
Yeah, I think
that would be a difference for me though, because I've experienced being in that situation and not having my voice heard. Because we was raised up on the thing of be seen and not heard, and that's how I don't know how it was in your household, but I know a lot of Caribbean households, that's what it was a case of. When you're pitney, be seen and not heard, and that's it. Whereas I think which to a degree I understand where it comes from, but it's not necessarily. I personally think it's not necessarily always
Duncan Hines
the right way of
walking around in that film, A Quiet Place, boy.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Exactly.
It was like that at my grandma's. We used to go to grandma's like, stop your ass and jumping up and down the house. That's what I used to get. But,
yeah, so I think my point being though, there's going to be differences on how you bring up your child. It's not going to be, and it's going to be a different world as well.
Yeah, it's very
It's going to be
true.
a completely different.
It's a different world now, bro. When I see all the kids in the technology, I'm like,
See, but even then, see stuff like that actually gives me great reason to believe. Actually, well, I'm not saying the method my parents raised me was correct then, but it might be very poignant today.
No, of course. I think you've got to have you've got to have
balanced,
pillars.
yeah.
You've got to have pillars in terms of how we was brought
Of
up. There's
course.
certain pillars that I think we will all take from how our parents raised us and bring it to our children. But there's certain things that we also thought, okay, that may have been deemed a bit harsh, or that may have been okay in those days, but it's just wrong to do that now. Like, I don't know what your opinions are on beating.
You know what? Was that a comma?
It was,
All right,
but you're going to jump in.
All right, sorry. No, because the reason why I say that is, please don't tell me I've lost it, because that's the last going to laugh. That's why.
That's why you should cut people.
No, it's because actually, like, I could be wrong and just blanketing some of the bad kids I've seen, but you'd say kids have got worse by and large. In fact, no, I'm bringing it. They have. All right.
well, you guys have both worked in school.
Yeah, they
for
have.
instance. You've seen it firsthand.
Yeah,
right?
I think the respect levels are totally down. Yeah,
so from when you was actually in school as a student to when you was in school as a teacher, or
These kids are wilding, man.
But then I say that, but like I remember, man's school was wild, bro. Like secondary school, man's school was wild. Like I went to a school. I'm just not gonna put it out there, but I went to a school in Richmond, and at a point it nearly got closed down because it was that wild, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, and we left at that point, but it managed to stay open, and it's totally changed around now. But I'm just trying to recall, like, even some of the stuff that we was doing till things that youths are doing now. It's not much changed, like, in terms of the activities, but in terms of general respect level, I think it's definitely gone down.
Cool, so that's kind of where I'm going, and we've all pretty much said that the parenting levels, not that they've gone, that's wrong, the parent levels haven't gone down, but we've become a bit softer.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, how about let's take it up a notch and go back.
Bring back the cane!
And
Bring
go
back the cane!
throwback.
And go back a little bit, and hopefully it'll bring about...
You don't have to go back. You just send them abroad.
Yeah, you could.
Anyway, I've got a mixture of things that I would like to do anyway, but I
Don't want to be your youth boy.
No, my kid don't want to be my youth.
Alright,
Yeah,
so those were the three main types mentioned, but there's actually a fourth type. And the fourth type are those who seize the opportunity to get out to the root of what is upsetting the child and try to find positive ways to soothe their feelings. To be effective at this, parents must have a good grasp of something's gone wrong in my notes, but anyway, a good grasp of emotional intelligence. Research shows that those children with parents who understand the importance of emotional intelligence are most likely to be more popular and better liked by their peers, and are seen by teachers as more socially skilled. So that's children. Yeah.
Yep.
Parents and teachers alike rate these children as having fewer behavioural problems such as rudeness and aggression. That last point, I'm not sure, because what's your thoughts on this? My personal thoughts is I wasn't raised in this fourth type of way where they soothe my feelings and touch my feelings. I was raised a mixture of the first three, but not the second one. More harsh in criticism, punishment, and got yelled at, and my emotions were kind of almost seen as trivial. Your child, what do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yet I do feel like I've grown up with a certain amount of respect, and didn't have behavioural problems. Maybe slightly rude, but not aggressive at school and stuff like that. So what's your thoughts? My parents would probably say, actually, they gave me the upbringing to install manners in me, because that was one big thing. Manners, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're representing me when you're on the road, so
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah,
So what's you guys' thoughts? I know that we didn't have the fourth type of upbringing, but do you agree that with what the thoughts are in this book about if you had this fourth type of upbringing, actually you've got fewer behavioural problems and rudeness. Me and you went to the same school, Pete. You didn't have any problems, from what I remember, with behavioural issues and stuff like that. And would you say that's because of the household you were raised and the way you were raised?
Yeah, 100%. I think it has everything to do with the way you're raised. I think. Sorry, I was just thinking about some of the kids that I've known in schools, because some of their parents are kind of no nonsense too. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they're raising them right in terms of. In fact, they do have good manners, but because a lot of the stuff that we spoke about in our homes took place, and maybe and in some cases on a worse scale, they've come into school and they've got no place to really vent, or they've had no place to vent because they can't even talk to their parents about that type of stuff. They're not allowed a voice. They don't have a voice. So they come to school and they let off all that steam there. Unfortunately, did you say would I have been better?
No, what I was saying is essentially what the book said from this research is the fourth type of parenting seems to be in the best route to prevent you having behavioural and emotional problems at school with rudeness and aggression and just the way you were raised and more likely to succeed in life and so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is I actually dispute that.
Yeah, we would dispute that because we wasn't raised like that, and we're in good positions and that.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable we're going to dispute that.
I think there's a balance to how much of a voice you give your child.
I understand where the point's being made.
Yes,
I could say, I would look at that and say, well, that's the model parenting style. That's what you would give a parent a book about and say, this, if you want to be the perfect parent, this is how you go about doing it. But with the mix of the other three, we're almost like the results of those parenting styles, and as far as I'm concerned, we're great citizens. Whether it's of the local borough, area, country, representation of our culture and race. I think we do well. So, yeah, I agree with your point. I don't think that fourth type of parent is the elite kind of parent. It also, as well, it can also depend on your upbringing, because I know the way I was raised, my dad specifically said, I want my boys to be raised with respect, but also have street smarts as well.
Oh, okay.
Because of the upbringing that we was in. We grew up in Shepherd's Bush, and the time that we was growing up in, it was, as I said, it was pre-Westfield. It wasn't... you had to have street smarts about you just to go from my house to get to my primary school. I used to be walking through crackheads and drunks in the morning. Like, you couldn't just be... Do you know what I mean? You had to have your wits about you, like one way or another. So I'm not going to say my dad just sent us out into the streets to just be roaming, but there was an essence of certain things that he put in place which made me the man I am today. That I think if the parent style was slightly different, I would have possibly missed a lot of that or not had those kind of tools to use.
Yeah, so almost, because that fourth type of parenting, and I'm just making an assumption, it's almost like you're cuddled and, you're slowly protected. And
yeah, very much so. Very much so. How it seems, and I'm not saying there's no right or wrong. And I think that was probably the first question I was going to ask initially was, is there a right or wrong way to raise a child? But I don't think there is and there isn't at the same time. Again, it depends on your circumstances and where you are and things of that nature. So, yeah.
Alright, cool. Moving on slightly to page 196, How to Raise a Bully. So much can be learned from the lifelong effects of emotionally inept parenting, particularly its role in making children aggressive. A study of 870 children from New York who were followed from 8 to 30, that's years of age, showed those who were most belligerent were most likely to have dropped out of school and have a criminal record by the age of 30. These children are raised with relentless severity by their parents, a pattern which seems to follow from generation to generation. The parents would apparently reflect the mood of how they felt onto the child. Yeah, I'd actually... Any thoughts?
I'm not surprised. Again, it's a cold world out there, you know what I'm saying? So with what goes on in your daily routine, like if you're with your more often than not, you're gonna be with your child, or certainly you're gonna be with them when they go home from school and stuff like that. If you've had a bad day at work, then unfortunately that's the type of energy you're gonna bestow onto your child. And it might not be.
It doesn't have to be though.
No, it doesn't have to be, but it's likely because
it's more
likely.
I think it's more likely if I don't want to say if you're not emotionally intelligent, but I just don't think it's more likely if you're not aware of the effect that your mood and your behaviour is gonna have on your child. Like if you've come out, if you've had a long day at work and you know it's been a shit day, blah blah blah, whatever, whatnot. If you're aware that if you bring the same energy into this house, it's gonna affect your child. You're gonna be I would think that you'd be like, okay, let me not bring this energy into this house, even though I'm feeling a certain way. When I do see my wife and my children,
Put on a brave face.
Yeah, you may have to, and even if it means putting it on for a couple of hours, putting on a mask, so to speak, for a couple of hours, then when your child has gone to bed, and you can then talk with your partner and say, look, I've been putting on a brave mask for the last couple of hours. This is how I really feel. Do you mind that awareness would then obviously help?
No, I can disagree with anything you said there. I was actually I was not counter, but I was gonna respond to that. But you pretty much said.
It goes on just to mention that if this continues where you've got parents like this raising children like this who obviously are dropping out of school, having criminal records, there's a dispute that it could lead to the extinction of empathy. But I don't know how that link is.
Cool, no
Couples. Okay, trauma and emotional learning, which is on an emotional relearning, should I say, which is on which is part 13, page 200. So going through this chapter, on 17th of February 1989, Patrick Purdy stood at the edge of Cleveland Elementary School and fired indiscriminately at hundreds of school children playing for a total of 7 minutes before turning the gun on himself and killing himself.
Jeez.
America. This is America, boy. When the police arrived, they discovered 5 children dying and 29 wounded. The emotional impact on these children left them worried every time they heard an ambulance van, a loud noise, and some even asked their parents for guns to play a game some kids at school played which related to the shooting. Kids had bad dreams, and some would even try and sleep with their eyes open. These are known key symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and become embezzled in the emotional circuitry and memories like this, keeping people on edge and ready to sound on an alarm at the least hint something like this may happen again. Have either of you had any events occur in your life which have almost left you emotionally scarred and almost on edge when it seems as if something similar may occur? So something happened to you out on the roadside or happened to you wherever in a household where you think it's left you on edge to the extent where you think something similar is going to happen and you just like jump up or you're worried or...
You know what?
Yeah.
I can't, you know, it's funny and it's probably poor timing. More often, I can't think of one particular thing.
I can think of one for you.
Okay, I'm glad you said
I can think of an example where something happened. I just want to know...
Oh, sorry. Actually, yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy to touch on it in just a moment. There are so many things I think about sometimes, and I think to myself, I almost forgot the question when you mentioned that.
You always forget the question.
No.
You're never listening.
No, you know, I am listening. No. So, repeat the question. Do apologise.
Of course.
Have either of you had any events occur in your life which have almost left you emotionally scarred and on edge when it seems as if something similar may occur to that event?
I personally can't think of any example.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that there isn't, but I can't recall anything that would make me trigger or think, oh shit, this reminds me of this situation.
Yeah.
Nothing traumatic. I haven't been in any school shootings.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I think maybe even the last example I've seen man get poked up and that. I can't think of anything that's like, oh shit, I just can't, personally, I can't.
What, P?
Yeah, I don't even know where to go with this, actually. Traumatic and make me... Yeah, I mean, obviously I have. I mean, it's amazing. Like, this weekend, obviously, my grandma has gone back to Ghana. Go on.
I was just gonna say maybe what I would put to that is police sirens. When I hear police sirens or I see flashing lights behind, or I naturally my adrenaline goes up for one reason or another, or my heart will skip a beat or something like that. Like, oh shit! Like,
Oh, so you're thinking of triggers? Are we thinking of triggers? Or?
Yeah, triggers.
Yeah.
So something might have happened to you, and then in the past, and then you might be in a scenario where something triggers that emotion to come back. Does that make sense? Or that kind of you've been emotionally scarred by something that's happened to you, and something happens which triggers that, and you're like you get worried because actually it brings it all back.
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
I don't think I get worried anymore. I think I've gone past any sense of worrying as such, and
no, I still get it with the police though.
Yeah. So I think I've gone past any real sense of worry. But I think, again, with the police and relating it to the police, I think every time I do see situations with the police and dare I say young youths, I actually think of there's your side, there's their side, and actually what happened, and I think of the causes and the effects. So over the past 3-4 years, I've had very close family pass away, unfortunately. I think of at least 2, like really, 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 really close. And then obviously my grandmother's gone back to Ghana for good. Only yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. To the point I think about, actually, these individuals who have been affected by it may potentially not see these people again. And this is by the cause and effect of something which, I'm going to use for lack of a better word, dare I say was manufactured, or for something that was fabricated for your benefit rather than the actual truth, if that makes any sense. So I would say, I mean, I do have triggers, you know. So yeah, I do have triggers. So every time I see, so when I see things taking place and unfolding, I like to know what actually really did happen. If that
Remember
makes
when
sense.
we went to the podcast festival?
Yep.
And we see that you getting nicked outside.
Yes, that's actually what was crossing my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened to him and such. If I don't want to say if it was difficult to believe his set of circumstances, I don't know why I'm saying that, but you never know with a story. So now I sometimes you hear or read stories, and I ask myself what actually happened, right? Because I've seen a different side to the story, or I know a different side to the story, which makes things. Someone told me something over there. Sorry, I'll just interrupt. Someone told me about a shooting of their family as such, and what they went on to say was, because it was Andrew. We live in London, one of the biggest cities in the world. You think the police cannot be in a city where, actually, in comparison to other cities around the world, where not a lot of killings generally take place, you think the police can be seen not to be taking action in regards to a shooting? They've got to take action. Someone is going down. Someone. That is very vague. No, but I'm just blanketing what he said. All right, he said someone is going. Someone is going down. The police have got to be seen to acting.
Yeah,
the point,
go on.
So the point I was actually making was, I know what you're going to say. The point I was making is, everyone's collateral damage. All right, it doesn't matter who's going down, whether you did it or not. And the point I'm making is, for where I'm leading to is, whenever I do see the police, who are supposed to be our protectors, and supposed to be the guiding light in regards to, dare I say, not society, but the law.
Yes.
Upholding the law.
Yeah.
Do they generally uphold the law? I don't want to go in another direction, but that is what I see when I see the police. Or when I see politics and stuff like that, because we've seen all sorts of stuff. Even before we even came in here, I don't want to go too deep, it's literally last 10 seconds. You've got the whole scandal over who invested the £9 million in regards to the Russia thing. You've got the politician who they're investigating. This guy, the businesses they're investigating, they say they wouldn't have sold for £2 bob. So where's he got £9 million from?
Okay, I understand. Yeah.
Anyway,
so does that make you feel on edge?
It does make you feel on edge, because if you've got upholding people.
What's happened? Okay, sorry, I don't know. What I was getting at is just because I remember, and this occurred to you when you were travelling.
Okay, cool. Maybe that's not 2 different things.
And where you can explain it if you want.
Yeah, I can.
But,
that's not a problem.
Yeah,
you can.
But yeah, where essentially you on a night bus from one country to another, you cross the border, and you got stopped by the local the police in that particular country, and they essentially proceeded to pretty much rob you.
Yeah. So
have since then you've been travelling. Have you come across like an episode where you thought it's been a similar scenario. Maybe you're on a night bus, you're going across the border, or you're going somewhere where there's some kind of government control, government security, and you thought, has it sparked back that thing where I might get robbed here? And has anything invoked in you to make you worried?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in Nicaragua when I think I forget which city I was in. Where I think there was someone maybe trying to take the piss as such. And when you take the piss, maybe be cheeky and stuff in relation to race and stuff like that. And I think there was a police officer like pretty much sitting down, and I thought to myself, I'm interested to see where this goes. I mean, because if he's allowing him to talk to me like that, I'm not gonna say I've got more money than you, but if let's be honest, I've got more money than both of these characters. Alright, if you're comfortable with him being disrespectful and racial. Where could this go? Mind you, I was near to being home anyway, and he may have recognised me from actually just being from that hostel over there, so nothing would have happened. But if that was a comfortable scenario for both individuals, then who am I? Truth be told. But yeah, there was plenty of examples when I was away for the second time where I thought to myself, and
essentially you thought,
yeah. For me, it was all safety in numbers. You ain't touching me around like these other individuals.
Cool. I think the reason I raised that question was because the book goes on to mention. Sorry, guys.
Do you mind?
Yeah, the book goes on to give an example where there was a man who was once struck on the back of his head randomly without seeing his attacker. After that, he would always then walk in front of someone who he believed wasn't capable of doing this, i.e. an old lady, and there's another example where a woman who was mugged at knife point in a lift was feared for being in any enclosed spaces.
Okay, that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense, yeah.
This leads on to horror being frozen in memory, which Dr. Dennis Charney stated victims of devastating trauma may never be the same biologically.
So it changed a part of their brain.
Exactly that. Yeah. Right, emotional relearning. Over time, fear of things can subside. Example, if you were bitten by a dog as a child, for a while you'd be scared of dogs. However, if you then moved house next to someone with a dog who was friendly, over time that fear would subside. With PTSD, it's a post-traumatic stress disorder.
I was bit by a dog.
I was bitten as well. I'm not scared of dogs.
Neither am I.
Maybe over time.
Possibly, but I never moved. Actually, no, I lived.
Why was you bit by a dog?
Why?
Did you do something?
Nah, my mate set the dog on us.
I don't know, what's wrong with guys?
It was dumb, bro. He had a Rottweiler, and I think it must have been about 3 or 4 of us, and the dog's fucking nutty. And we must have been about 10, like 9, 10, about 9 or 10. That's when we was being in White City. And he set the dog on us, and all of us ducked, and the dog got me, bit my leg. Maybe trying to attack me off. He's bit my leg. He's kicking it. He's bit my leg, and he's pulled him off. And he's like, "Oh, don't tell the people." Like, yeah, cool, whatever. But I took it and just got on with it. Really.
I remember I got bitten by a dog once, and I wasn't. Yeah, afterwards I wasn't scared, and I think the reason was it was actually my fault. So I've gone to knock for my mate. This was when I lived in Hammer, actually. I've gone to knock for my mate, and long story short, his little sisters answered the door. I was only about 9 at the time, and his little sisters answered the door, but she's answered the door and she's barefooted, and as she's gone to call hold her brother, I've stepped forward and I've actually stepped on her foot.
Yeah.
So she screamed. So all the dogs heard his hair scream.
Yeah.
So the dogs just come running and jumped at me.
Yeah.
Do you know? The dog actually got put down because of me, and it wasn't even the dog's fault. The dog's obviously just being protected. The little girl scream and come and run, jumped at me and then beat me on my leg. Yeah. And I've run crying.
That is your fault, man.
I know.
You ever been bit?
No, thankfully. Still weary of dogs anyway.
Yeah, with post-traumatic stress disorder, this is not the same as spontaneous relearning. This is not the same as spontaneous relearning fails to occur due to the brain changes related to PTSD. However, Dennis Charney states that a part of the brain, namely the prefrontal cortex, can actively surprise another part of the brains, the amygdala, can actually surprise another part of the brain's commands to the rest of the brain to respond with fear. Sorry, I know that probably didn't make sense. You have to just read the book. Re-education of the emotional brain. One way to re-educate the emotional brain is through emotional healing via reliving the trauma safely. For example, the child who witnessed the fatal shooting at Cleveland would play a game in the playground centered around the shooting. However, replaying the trauma with lower anxiety, desensitizing the situation and allowing a non-traumatic set of responses to become associated with the event works in the child's favour.
It's similar to the point we was making earlier.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question based on this. Having both worked in education, have you ever come across a child playing a game or murmuring things to themselves in a playground which made you suspicious that they had been subjected to an event which had caused emotional disturbance? Possibly at home.
Do you know what? A lot of the schools that I worked in, we already had a lot. I would go into the schools and they already had files on these children.
Okay.
All the young people. So I was already privy or known a lot of situations that they'd been in. So I would have probably been a bit more sensitive or aware of them saying certain things or behaving a certain way. So it wasn't like, oh, that's brand new. It was like, that's because of this, and I'll relate that to that.
So you've been witness to certain things.
Yeah.
Relating to their post.
Some horrible shit, man. Some horrible. When you hear about some of the things that some of the youths have been through, I totally get why you're bugging out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally. Some of the things some of the stories that you hear is heartbreaking. Like, it's heartbreaking, and I don't know. Maybe it was again upbringing, and maybe just going back to what you're saying work is work, and when you come out of work. So I was very much able to separate myself from.
You wasn't.
I was. I was very much like, when I'm in work, I can read a file and be like, okay, this child's got these problems, issues in their life. Their behaviour, it shows in this kind of behaviour. They display this kind of behaviour or language, and I can be fully empathetic with them whilst in the school environment. But once I'm out, I was very much, okay, that's work, that's done. I've got my own life to live.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely, going back to the question, I've definitely viewed certain behaviours and knowing it is because of a certain traumatic situation that's taking place
in the home.
Yeah.
What about you, P?
100%. You see all over the
same
kids
thing.
written all over their faces. Can't get away from it. I worked in SEN schools and I worked in mainstream. In SEN schools, again, very
standard.
similar to what like French said. That was standard. But I mean, you had a profile of these kids, so they say something, you know where it's come from. It's funny because when I worked in a secondary school, in a mainstream school, I wasn't necessarily given profiles, but I heard something, I knew that's come from somewhere.
So you'd actually hear things coming out of children's mouths, or you see them doing odd things.
There's things that kids like. I think it got to the point where I don't want to say I was good at. I'm patting my own back, but I think they knew that I was good at what I was good at, to the point and people start telling me. So I will see things and I think something wrong with him. I'm not wrong with him, but there's something up.
Yeah.
And then I'd question it, and then people would tell me, and then you'd see things, and like to the point, there's probably a couple kids who. I don't want to say were close to me, but because I had strong links in football, but I don't think it had anything to do with football.
Yeah.
Because I was now able to have conversations with the kids, and if they told me something or they said something which I know which maybe under normal circumstances they wouldn't tell me, from there I'd have to act on it because unfortunately you have to act on it, even though you are close to the child. But you'd see things. It's actually scary actually, because it's all over the school.
Yeah.
All over the school.
There wasn't, the majority of schools that I did work in was SEN. I worked in a couple of private schools.
What's SEN for those that?
Special educational needs.
Got you.
Yeah. I mean, just closing, like, upon leaving this school, and it had nothing to do with this school in particular, because I worked in behaviour, towards the end, I remember thinking, what is going on here? Like, as in, like, it's not rife, that is, it's
it feels rife when you're in that
Yeah.
sector, because I was going from school to school, working for agencies and stuff, but it was the same, not to say the same behaviours, very similar behaviours, but in terms of how much you see affected children. Like, you genuinely see how much the things that they're saying, the way they're talking, the way their mannerisms, and just thinking about it now, it's just like, fuck, man, you're losing you're in a losing battle, and you ain't even
You are.
5.
If you ain't got the right people around you, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt upon leaving.
There's certain students that I think of now, like I would hate to see now.
Yeah.
Like what you're gonna be like in 10, 15 years. Fucking hell.
I'm thinking this off the top.
You probably won't be like how they are then. You shouldn't be out on the road.
I believe that all
That
schools
traumatized though.
know they're losing a battle. You're losing a battle, and it's who you can save.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that it's who you're gonna save.
There's
I
some
couldn't work
children
like
that could be out. You're gone. You're lost. 100%. Like there's no hope for you. That's terrible to think.
That is one of the last things, reason why, not why I left, because I went travelling, but in fact, that pushed me towards travelling actually. I thought, I can't save these kids. There's nothing I can do. Nothing. No matter what I can do.
It's funny, you meet some kid and you're 5 years old and you seem too far gone. Like, it's that, but I'm talking like, when you read their profile and see what they've been through, it's like, oh, makes sense.
See, that's incredible, because I'm thinking secondary. Then I've worked in primary.
Now I'm talking about primary school, bro.
But now I'm thinking primary, and I'm thinking, I've seen kids, like, not too long ago, I said I didn't want to say that, but not too long ago, I'm listening thinking, Jesus, I take miracle turning you around. Because actually, there's got to be strong intervention. Actually, very similar, obviously not very similar, like of this nature, and not like a lesson. I'm talking about over a long period of time to change your mentality, and it is incredible.